So, as I said, I'm Sarah Linda Lichtblau, Director of Education at the Hudson River Museum, and it is my distinct pleasure to kick off tonight's program, Nyblewyck Hall, Dollhouse in Bloom. Just a few notes before we start. Your microphones have been muted upon entry, but you can control your video camera. Turn it on or off as you like. Closed captioning is available by clicking on the CC icon at the bottom of your screen. And as Darren said, should you have any questions for the speakers, you are invited to type them in the chat and they'll be moderated by the staff at the end of the presentation, which we anticipate will run approximately 1 hour. So, welcome to this virtual tour of Nyblewyck Hall, Yonkers' favorite 24-room dollhouse on display in our historic home, Glenview. Nibblewick is decorated for springtime with miniature floral bouquets by notable miniaturists from around the world, curated by miniaturist and gallerist Darren Scala, the owner of D. Thomas Miniatures in Yonkers, New York. From a very young age, Darren has been inspired by the world of tiny. He hosts estate sales and auctions consisting of dollhouse miniature collections and lectures on the topic of fine scale miniatures to libraries and arts organizations around the country. He was recently featured on the reality series Biggest Little Christmas Showdown on HGTV. And his Meet the Miniaturist series on YouTube helps promote mini movers and makers of miniatures from around the world in an effort to educate and spread awareness of miniatures and get folks inspired to become enthusiasts. His hashtag is Find the Joy in Miniatures.
I don't know why I can't get the...
And I must say that he brings us tremendous joy in the Hudson River Museum as he works with us to decorate Nyblewyck Hall according to the season. And now I am delighted to bring you Darren Scala.
Thank you very much for that introduction. Wow.
Pleasure. And take it away, Darren.
Well, as you said, I am a miniaturist and I'm a gallerist. I call myself an unapologetic miniaturist. I'm going to go ahead and start and share my screen, can go right into this presentation. Just to remind folks that the chat box is open throughout. Please feel free to use it. Again, I don't know if I can get to every question, but feel free to ask in the chat box. I will probably get a copy of the chat box, so you can ask questions in there. I'll probably see them later on. But thank you at home for joining. And also thank you to the Hudson River Museum for allowing me and the artists that are represented in this show to use Nyblewyck Hall as a backdrop to showcase these beautiful floral arrangements and to really showcase miniatures as a fine art form. So thank you guys. Thank you at the museum. I'm really, really grateful to be able to do this and to be able to showcase miniaturists and miniature artisans from all over the world. So let's talk about Flowers in Bloom and this 2023 Spring Flower Show at the Hudson River Museum. And just to set the agenda, I'll talk a little bit about myself, and let me remind folks to go ahead and unmute yourselves if you wouldn't mind, because we are hearing some feedback from some folks who have their mics on. I'm going to touch upon the history of miniatures just a little bit, and then go right into Nyblewyck Hall and talk about the wonderful, whimsical families of Van Nibblewick who occupy the home in Nyblewyck Hall in the Glenview, which is at on the campus of the Hudson River Museum. And it's a wonderful place. And I really do hope you guys do get to see it in person at some point. I'll, of course, take you through a virtual walkthrough of the Flowers in Bloom show and talk about the participating artists that are represented in the show. And then I'm going to show you a little bit about the tips and techniques on how some of these beautiful flower arrangements have been crafted. If we have time, we will take a few questions at the end. I've got a lot to cover, but feel free to reach out to me after this. If you still have questions, we will hopefully, maybe we can put my contact information in the chat box if you guys decide that you want to reach out at some point afterwards. So let's get right to it. A little bit about myself. As I mentioned, I'm an unapologetic miniaturist. I was very lucky to have supportive parents. My dad was a cabinet maker, and at 8 years old, you didn't ask for a dollhouse, but he made one for me. And I was incredibly supported by my family to pursue my dreams of being in the miniatures world full-time as a profession. And that's where I am right now. But I do mostly handle estate sales and auctions of miniatures, and I sell miniatures and resell miniatures and find loving homes for some of these beautiful tiny treasures. But what I love to do is promote miniatures every chance I get. And again, thank you to the Hudson River Museum for allowing me to come in and allow these artists to showcase their wonderful miniatures. You can follow me on my social media channels. I have a YouTube channel where I showcase miniatures in my Meet the Miniaturist series, so look for that. And let's get right into it. You know, miniatures have been around forever. You know, the ancient pharaohs were buried with them. They thought they could take them with them. So they miniaturized everything and took what they could with them when they were buried. But it wasn't really until the Renaissance era that we see miniatures arrive in the way we see them today, which is Dollhouse, if you will. But they weren't necessarily meant to be played with back then in the 1600s, 1700s. These were called cabinet houses or baby houses at the time, just baby meaning smaller. And they showcased tiny versions of full-scale objects for wealthy women of the time, mostly in Europe. And they would show off all of their wonderful tiny treasures to their friends and the families. And this is really the earliest inspiration of what we know as dollhousing today. But miniatures have really always been a part of our lives in some way. And I'm sure you guys can think back to when you were a small child playing with tiny things, whether they were dolls, if you were a boy, maybe they were trucks or cars, but miniatures have always been in our lives and they've always been inspirations for us. But if you fast forward to sort of today, they've kind of become this pop culture phenomenon. And I wanted to pull this article from the New York Sunday Times style section from just this past weekend, talking about this wonderful world of tiny. So if you can catch it, go check out that article. It talks about miniatures and the miniature showcases that happen across the country, selling miniatures and fine miniatures. And also there's a show in New York City called the Smallest Beautiful Art Exhibition. So just little examples, no pun intended, of miniatures being in our lives, in our worlds, in the fine art world and the pop culture world and the media landscape as well. So look for some of those things and to bring miniatures into your world in a great big way. But if you want to really take a look at some of the more popular categories in the miniatures world, we see things that you might see in full scale. Things like fine scale or fine silver, real silver objects. Also, some of the other popular categories would be fine furniture. So this is an example of a hand-painted cabinet made by an amazing artist. And actually, she's out of New York. Her name is Natasha Beshenkovsky. And there's also this, which is, hold on, glassware. Actually, hand-blown glass can be found in small scale. And I just wanted to give you a look at how fine scale glass is hand-blown with tools and materials that you might find in the full-scale world. This is a hand-painted portrait that was done also, I believe, by Natasha Beshenkovsky. So everything that you find in full scale, you would find in small scale. And the more popular categories that you find are similar to the ones you would be drawn to in real life. So food, fashion, pottery. Food, I guess, is really probably one of the most popular categories. As you can imagine, the things that we gravitate in small scale are going to be the things that we gravitate towards in real life. So food is actually a very popular category. Furniture, as I mentioned, is popular. And what makes sort of a fine scale miniature fine is that the materials and the craftsmanship and the techniques of building are similar to how they would be built in the real world. So this is an example of a tufted leather, real leather chair with real brass rivets that are holding the arms together. So you just want to plop yourself into that chair. And so those are some of the examples of what you would find in small scale that are really, really popular. And of course, there are flowers. This is actually a floral arrangement by a wonderful craftsperson out of Russia, Gosha, and I'm not going to pronounce her name right, so I won't say it, but she does beautiful, beautiful floral work in small scale, which is really the inspiration for what we're seeing, what this show is all about, is these fine scale miniature floral arrangements. But let's talk about Nyblewyck Hall. let's talk about Nyblewyck Hall and the Van Nybelwicks, which is the fictitious family that occupy this wonderful structure that was built and created by Mark O'Banks. He was an artist. He's no longer with us, unfortunately, but he was an artist in the 80s and the 90s. He was a craftsperson. He was an actor. He was studying to be an actor, and he created this amazing dollhouse. I call it a mini mansion. It's a mini manse. Over a 10-year period from 1999 all the way through to 2000. It took him 10 years to build this structure. And no surprise, there are 24, no surprise it took him that long. There are 24 rooms in this that he actually made on the floor of his apartment in Washington, D.C., where he lived. He actually grew up in New York State, close to New York City, inspired by the Hudson River around him. And this house, believe it or not, has 3 different architectural styles. I want to go back for a second. This house has 3 different architectural styles, which are very much a part of the Hudson River Valley landscape in terms of architecture. And he was inspired by the Dutch, the Georgian, and the Victorian styles. He brought them all together in this wonderful structure, which is about 8.5 feet long. It's about 4 feet high, maybe a little bit higher with some of the clouds that you don't see in the photographs. And it's about 2 feet deep. And everything about this architectural structure is real. You can actually, if you miniaturize yourself, you can walk through this home and get to every room in the house from the bottom kitchen all the way up to the 4th floor. You can walk through it architecturally accurately. Don't know if I'm saying that right, but I hope you know what I mean. There are over 900 individual objects that are included in this mini mansion, both a combination of manufactured pieces and artisan pieces. And I think that's what makes this house such a wonderful piece, is that he worked all of those pieces together, along with this whimsical story of the Van Nybelwicks that live it, to make it this eclectic mix of wonderful. And I just love what he did and how he brought the story of the Van Nybelwicks together. This is actually capturing a day in the life of the Van Nyblewyck family, who has a daughter, Celestine, who's about to get married, and they're preparing for her engagement, which is happening the next day. And the short net is she really loves her music teacher, and her real engagement, soon to be husband, fiance, is really in love with someone else. So there's a lot of drama going around in this story. So I definitely encourage you guys to look into the story, because the story is full on drama, and then you bring into the miniatures, and it just makes it so much fun. But each room has a specific meaning. Mark O'Banks had a specific meaning for each room that he calls out. It suggests, and believe it or not, the Nyblewyck Hall, the Van Nyblewyck family, and the name of the structure was conjured up after a session with a Ouija board. I just love Mark O'Banks. I love him to death. I wish I could have met him. I think we would have been buddies from day one. And so again, back to the story of the Nyblewyck, the Van Nybelwicks that are occupying this home. This is a snapshot of what's happening in the living room as they await the arrival of the music teacher, who's really in love with the opera singer and all of that. And all the while, Mrs. Greer, who she spends a lot of time in the kitchen, is preparing for the meal for the next day. I really wanted to give you a snapshot of the rooms of Nyblewyck Hall, because they really are extraordinary, and the art dolls that occupy them are so wonderfully made. And then, of course, you have all of the wonderful pieces that make up each of the rooms. So well thought out, well crafted, bringing all those pieces together. So kudos to Mark O'Banks on this wonderful achievement. One of my favorite rooms, I actually, they're all my favorite, but this is actually the upstairs conservatory. It's a glass conservatory on the very, very top floor. And of course, you'll see which flower arrangements occupy or take place or adorn that room as well as we move on. So let's talk about Flowers in Bloom, which is the wonderful exhibition that's happening right now at the Hudson River Museum in Nyblewyck Hall. This is actually the second time we're actually putting this show on. We had sort of a quiet, softer presentation exhibition last year, but we were just coming out of COVID. So a lot of many of these flowers that are here that you're going to see today were presented last year as well, but didn't get their just due. So I'm so happy that all of the flowers are now going to be seen in this show and share them with you. The concept of this flower show is really about celebrating the spring season, of course, but also highlighting the structure of Nybelwyck Hall at the Glenview, and also to raise awareness of miniatures as a true art form, and to promote the many miniaturists out there who are working diligently in the silo of the miniature world, but don't often get seen outside the miniature world, to get its just due from the fine art community and the museums around the world. So I'm really, really happy to be able to do this. And again, thank you to the Hudson River Museum for allowing us to come in and decorate Nybelwyck Hall with these wonderful, beautiful flowers. There are actually 24 pieces in the show that we're going to get to see. And there are 10 countries around the world where artists have contributed pieces from. Everything you see is handcrafted. Materials include clay and paper and resin and porcelain and wire and acrylics. And I'm going to give you a little bit of snapshot in a little bit of how some of these are made as we get into it. But I do want to point out some of the showstoppers in the show. All of the flowers absolutely are beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And I wish I can go through all of them as deeply, but I want to share a few of them. Front and center is this beautiful, beautiful arrangement by Hope Elliott. Hope Elliott is a fellow of the International Guild of Miniature Artisans. If you guys aren't familiar with the Guild, it is one of the largest organizations that dedicated to fine art miniatures and promoting the fine art miniature world, and to be become raised to fellowship status at the Guild is definitely a high honor, and you can see why. So Hope created this piece called the Victorian Splendor. It's got heirloom tulips, larkspur, jonquils, flowering cherry, and fern. It's in a silver-footed jardiniere. I hope I said that right. And every piece and every flower is hand sculpted by Hope, and it's just a beautiful piece. The next up is a piece by Esha Bijutkar. Bijutkar. I hope I said that right. She's got an Instagram account. I'm going to share everybody's social media so that you can go ahead and follow them at the end. But she has an Instagram site called Pink Petite Rose. And this is she's actually a newcomer in the miniatures world, and she's got an engineering background. And I'm just floored by the fact that both sides of those brains are working, because this is they're all my favorites, but this is a beautiful arrangement. She's actually has several pieces in the Small is Beautiful art exhibition in New York City. So she's getting around, which is awesome. And her work is being shown. This piece I don't have these are all roses. Every one of these or different roses. Beautiful, beautiful piece made of cold porcelain. I'm going to talk a little bit about what the cold porcelain process is. I'm going to bring her up later. I actually just interviewed her for a Meet the Miniaturist webinar, Meet the Miniaturist episode that's going to be coming up in a few weeks. So that's Esha Bijutkar out of India. And this is work by Masuri Miura. She's also known as Macy. She's out of Japan. She's on Instagram as Studio Blue 038. And she's a Japan-based miniaturist. She's very well known for her floral creations. This is an arrangement of roses, rosebuds, Annabelle, sweet pea, lanunculus, and greenery. The process by which she makes her miniature flowers is something called kneaded acrylic. I'm just amazed when I see this kind of work. And then finally, I just wanted to point out four of the artists. This is work by Paula Gilhooley. She's New York based. She actually lives on Long Island here in New York. And she has been making flowers for many years. Her work is incredible. This arrangement includes roses, begonias, mums, daisies, carnations, ferns, and also greenery in a terracotta, sort of like this beautiful aged terracotta vase. Definitely take a look at the vessels that these come in, because in addition to the flowers being very, very well thought out, the vessels that are used are also incredible. Why don't we see if there are any questions that I can quickly take before we do our virtual walkthrough?
So
Um,
Darren, you've I think Jean asked if you could say what the flowers are made of. So
yes, yes.
you've been addressing.
I'm gonna talk about what each arrangement is made of when I go through the walkthrough, for sure.
There was a specific question though, from a visitor all the way from Memphis.
Yay.
Right. So you see that? Is there a resource for miniatures made within an historical period, as
Great.
well as a resource for crafting period miniatures?
Wow.
So
That's
yeah,
a loaded question.
it's a loaded question.
It's
He's
a loaded
specifically
question.
interested in 18th century British furniture.
You know, I love that question. I love the specificity.
Right. Yes.
What I'm going to say is, while Facebook is probably one of the most polarizing social media platforms today, it does have a very, very welcoming, supportive, positive communities that would love to answer this question. Because actually, I don't think I have a question. I don't have an answer off the top of my head. But if you go on Facebook and join some of these miniature communities, you will find answers, and people will love to answer them for you. So
thank you. And thank you, Darren.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right, so let's start the virtual tour. So the virtual tour is basically gonna take about 15 minutes, and I'm gonna just run the video and speak through it. So that there we go. Let's see. We're gonna start in the Great Hall. Center stage, double staircase is really a focal point, and here we have Hope Elliott's piece right there in the center. As you can see, it's actually on a hardwood table, which is awesome. And it sort of is like the focal point for the show. It's a classic Victorian arrangement that is just perfect for this show. Next up, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a heads up of the different rooms before we get into each of the individual arrangements. This is the kitchen, which just comes off of the conservatory, the downstairs conservatory, because there's more than one, of course, because this is a mini mansion. And then we head into the Colden dining room, which is all adorned with probably some of the largest pieces in the show, because this is really going to be the center point of everything that's happening in the house. So this is where some of the biggest arrangements actually end up be going. For the miniatures enthusiasts, there are a lot of Pita Quisto silver objects in this room, which are pretty awesome. And there are a number of beautiful porcelain pieces as well. This is the Rixley Conservatory. This is the downstairs conservatory right off of the kitchen. And this piece is by Mary Kinlock. This is an assortment of herbs, which has thyme, parsley, and sage in it, in tiny white planters. And you can't really see it, but each of the names of the ingredients are actually written on there. Then we have a very simple glass vase filled with dandelions, and that's by Olesya Arnyscheva. She's from Russia. And these are hand-cut paper with wire stems. And I just actually want to just stop this for a second, because I wanted to talk a little bit about Mary's pieces, which, Mary's, her herbs, this is all Japanese crepe paper. And she commissions paper makers in Japan to make the paper that has just the right texture, so that she can really achieve the realistic versions of these beautiful herbs that are in the planter. So just something to note, just the level of detail involved in making some of these miniatures. All right, so let me just fast forward a little bit. And, oh, wait, okay, so actually, let me go back a little there. So there are 3 arrangements in this Colden dining room. They're formal assortments by 3 very talented artists. I talked a little bit about Paula Gilhooley from Huntington, Long Island. This is hand-cut paper, including begonias, mums, daisies, roses, fern leaves, and it's in that aged terracotta planter. Oftentimes, the miniaturist would make the planters themselves, and I will highlight when they do. This piece is by Rina Velikor. Hope I said that right. She's actually from Siberia, Russia. She's well known for her food miniatures. So this was one of her first flowers that she's made, and it's incredible. And then we have the 3rd arrangement in the Colden dining room, which is by María C. from Spain. This is a version of various yellow roses, blue hyacinths, also made of hand-cut paper and acrylics, and it's on a hardwood column and in a glass vase, usually filled with like an acrylic to keep all of the stems inside. I want to just bump upstairs right now. We're really on the top floor here. This is the 4th level. There were 4 rooms up there. This is Glencora's suite. She's the grandmother of the Van Nyblewyck home. She's actually in a wedding dress because she was jilted at the altar, and she never really quite got over that. Next to that is the Cathedral of, this is the artist's studio. This is where one of the Nibblewick boys, the Van Nyblewyck boy, spent a lot of his time up here in the artist loft. And then right next to that is what is called the Cathedral of Lost Souls. And that's probably one of the most fascinating rooms in the whole house. If you know anything about the Victorian times, they were very superstitious, and they believed in ghosts and the fairies, and there are fairies everywhere in this house and ghosts everywhere in this house. There's even one who appears to be breaking out and breaking through the ceiling. Again, very whimsical. He's got one of those plastic cocktail forks, swords in his hand, and he's breaking out. He's getting there. And then on the side of that is the last room on the 4th floor is the Wretched Garret. This is where Tosca, the music teacher, spends a lot of his time in between teaching the Van Nybblewicks how to play the piano. So it's in the process of being decorated. Marco Banks says it will never be redecorated, but let's go through all of the pieces on that 4th floor. This assortment is also by Yevheniia Kudriavtseva out of Russia. I want to stop this because I want to go back because I want to talk about what's in this piece because it's awesome. So what is in this arrangement? Of course, it's in a glass vase. Oh wait, I didn't get it. I'll go back. Hold on. Okay, so what's in this piece is fuller teaser. I learned so much about flowers. Fuller teaser, pink and white carnations, and arbutus branches. Tiny, 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 tiny. So yeah, I love, this is also they're all my favorite pieces. How am I going to make one? They're like children. Next to that in the artist studio is a piece by Carolyn Hayes out of Australia. It is an assortment of Australian natives, including warata, wattle, flannel flowers, and gummits. Now, the Van Nybblewicks were known to travel around the world, so it's very possible they have been to Australia to find those seeds. In the Cathedral of the Lost Souls is another arrangement. We don't know who the artist is. This is actually from my own collection. It includes daisies, pink bird of paradise, and carnations also in a glass vase. And I made this piece myself, you guys. This is in the Wretched Garret in Tosca's room. It is dried flowers. I bought it from Michael's. This can just get to show you guys that you can do it. And it's actually a vase that I had in my own personal collection. I just think this is a simple way to make miniatures, guys, at home. You could do it. All right, so we're now on the 3rd floor. This is one of the maid's rooms. It's not very fancy, but it's so dressed up with this piece, which is made by... Actually, I'm going to just show you these rooms before I go into individual pieces. This is the laundry room or a storage room. And then this is the butler's room. This is Molnar's bedchamber. There's a piece in there too. And we're going to get to that in a second. I really wanted this piece to brighten up the maid's room. This is an assortment of pink and white peonies made of hand-cut paper, also with acrylics in a ceramic pot, which has sort of like a matte finish. This was made by Cristina Hampe out of Germany. She's an incredible artisan. She's also known for her food miniatures, but beautiful, beautiful work. In Molnar's bedchamber, this is the butler. This is a piece by Janny Warner out of Germany as well. This is a blue lace hydrangea. She uses hand-dried paper and acrylics, and she made the tall, mossy-aged ceramic pot that it goes in. Another one. It's just beautiful. Her attention to detail is crazy. So to continue on the 3rd floor, that's another one of this is actually the governess's bedchamber. It's called the red and green room. We'll get to it. Let me go through the room. So this is the Nana. She lives in that room. Her name is she's a nanny. Her name is Nana Klinkfoil. There's also the conservatory on that 3rd floor, as well as a potter shed, because again, attention to detail. It's kind of crazy. And then as we move over, It's called the Rooftop Conservatory. Again, it's one of my favorite rooms. And I love the fact that they have that hidden like potter's chest next door. It's really called the mother's shed. This is the boys' room. It's called the Biedermeier chamber. These are the brothers of Celestine, who's getting married, who's getting engaged, and they actually live underneath that Cathedral of the Lost Souls. There's if you must go see this dollhouse at some point, because there is actually a pull down ladder that leads to the Lost Souls area, and the boys actually hear thumps in the night often. This is the Egyptio Tudor room, which is filled with treasures from the Van Nibbelwicks, from all of their travels. So there are miniature statues in this room. There are beautiful rugs in this room, portraits in this room, and it's just a lovely, lovely, lovely place to spend time. So anyway, this is one of the first pieces. This is by Cristina Lavrinaitis from Russia. It's a bucket of yellow and pink roses, mostly hand-cut paper. This is in the Rooftop Conservatory. This artist is unknown. This is actually part of my collection as well. It's not signed. It's a clay pot with red ranunculus, dahlias, and eucalyptus on a brass bench with tassels. You can see there's little brass tassels that hang from it. This is one of my favorite arrangements too. And then in the boys' Biedermeier room, this is a Sandra Henry Wall piece. The enthusiasts out there are going to know who Sandra Henry Wall is. We actually lost her this year. She was an amazing artisan, made beautiful flowers in small scale, and I just love the color pop of these. The Lilium stargazers, also made of paper. And then finally, well, not finally yet, there's another piece here which is also a paper, hand-cut paper arrangement in an Asian-inspired vase. But finally, on this floor is this beautiful Tiffany-inspired lamp, which was made by Esther Marker out of India. So this is actually 3D printed of resin, but she goes in and hand paints every single bump that makes the flowers in this design. You'll also note that this is, she uses metallic wax to finish it off and glass paint to highlight all of those pieces. It's actually a working lamp. It's a working piece, which is kind of crazy. All right, we're on the second floor. We're in the family bathroom. It's a Victorian style bathroom. And then that leads into the sewing room because we're getting ready for a wedding. So there's a wedding dress that's being made right now. This is called the Godiva sewing room. Getting back to sort of Marco Banks and his style. This is called the Godiva sewing room because he used Christmas wrapping paper from a Godiva chocolate box to line these walls. And I am just floored by that because look how awesome that looks. Just look how awesome. So just those little touches make this such an extraordinary home. But actually, we're just talking about, before we get into the flowers, these are the rooms on the second floor. This is Celestine's bedroom. And inside that bedroom is one of the maids who's sort of eyeballing the dress she's going to wear at her engagement party. So there's a lot of drama there going on. But there's a plan actually for them to elope. So this maid is actually going to get that dress at some point, or at least that's the plan. All right, so we're in the Godiva sewing room. And the piece that was made for this room was done by, it's actually a pink and white roses, peonies, and tulips made by Darla Miazik. She's out of Canada, and it's also in a very Asian-inspired urn, if you will, which again is very period for the time, and a lovely arrangement. I think it really looks good in that room. Also in the gold bedchamber, which is Celestine's bedroom, is a piece by Olesya Arnyscheva from Russia. Let me stop this because it's going too fast. And I want to make sure everybody knows what everything is. Oh, yeah. I want you to see these tulips because they're awesome. Hold on, if I could just back it up. There. So this is an assortment of tulips, which are obviously red and yellow, made by just red and tulips they're in a glass mason jar with a beautiful little red bow. Again, some of my favorites. It's lovely. And that's Olesya Arnyscheva out of Russia. All right, let's continue. Because we're going to move to the nursery. This is where Nana Klinkfoil is taking care of all the kids. And this piece is also by Darla Miazik out of Canada, and it includes an assortment of pink and white roses. Those are made of paper, an acrylic, and wire, and they're in a white vase. To continue the second floor, this is the charade. Oh wait, hold on. Am I saying that right? This is the Scheherazade room, which was modeled after the book Arabian Nights, because again, I gotta stop this. Again, the whimsical approach. This Scheherazade room is named that way because the walls are made from a 2-volume set of the Arabian Nights, which was published in 1902. How crazy is that? All right, so one of the pieces that graces this room, and as I mentioned this before, was made by Masura Miori. She's also known as Macy, out of Japan. And in this arrangement, she makes these by a process called kneaded acrylic, which just blows my mind that she's actually working with the acrylic and working with the color to hand pound or hand make each petal in that arrangement of roses, Annabelle, sweet pea, and ranunculus. My goodness, I'm learning so much about flowers in this show. So hold on, why did it stop? Let's keep going. I don't know why it stopped. Oh, here we go. Whew. Okay, now we are in, this is the master bedroom. This is the blue and marble bed chamber, the master bedroom. And there's a beautiful bouquet made by Mi Patio Escondido out of Spain. And it includes a bouquet of pink and coral roses. It's situated on a faux marble column, and it's hand-cut paper, also with acrylic, wrapped in satin ribbon. You can't really see the holder of the bouquet, but it is wrapped in beautiful satin paper. This is actually we're seeing this again, but this is Darla's piece that graces the nursery. Again, it's an assortment of pink and white flowers for that room. And then we're gonna head down to the first floor. This is actually called the Zuber living room, and it's named after that because Marco Banks enlarged a 3-inch square photograph of a wallpaper design, and he enlarged it using and he made just the most beautiful wallpaper out of it. So this room actually is graced with 2 different floral arrangements. As you can see in that photograph, there's lots of drama happening. They're waiting for folks to arrive. That is a piece also by Sandra Henry Wall, who I mentioned is an IGMA fellow. And it's a large, substantial piece because this is pretty much a large room, and it is a formal arrangement that's made up of roses and sunflowers, daisies and tulips. And back to this work by Esha Bijutkar out of India. I now have in front of me the roses that make up this piece. So that includes, it's all roses. Blanc Pierre de Ronsard. I'm going to stop it because there's so many roses here to read. Roses of Blanc Pierre de Ronsard, Blue for You, Blueberry Stems, Spray Wit, and Windmere. This is made using cold porcelain, and we're gonna bring her up to talk about how cold porcelain is actually made. And she handmade the jug that is also included in there as well. Talent beyond talent. Okay, hold on. There we go. All right, so moving on from the Zuber living room, we're moving into the Titan music room, which Marco Banks called the soul of the house. And this piece is by Yevheniia Kudriavtseva out of Russia. It's a bouquet of red roses made of paper and polymer clay with silk ribbon wrapping around the base, as well as a ribbon that hangs from the piece as well, which you can't see. Maybe in some of the photographs I have online, you can see. But I wanted to end with 2 things of this virtual walkthrough, which I wanted to share the Gothic Library, which is the last room on the right, which is a lovely room. We didn't get to get a flower arrangement in that room, but it is a lovely room. And maybe next year we can get the floral arrangement in there. But it's really the gentleman of the home's study, where he sits and he contemplates what's going on with his family in the home. I forgot about the understair. How could I forget about that? You guys, there is a character. His name is Patty Layton, and he lives under the stairs, and he takes care of the house, and he takes care of the occupants who live there. and we couldn't not decorate his room, and so I made this tiny little arrangement that is there on a little pewter column, and we called out to we had a call out to the museum's current exhibition, which is all themed based on the theme of flowers, and it's a reprint of Edward Stainchen's, I hope I'm saying that right, which is currently on view at the museum, which is an outstanding triptych. So there's a floral arrangement in a tiny glass vase. It's actually lavender branches in a tiny red glass vase on a pewter column. And we couldn't forget about Patty because he takes care of everybody in the house, and we wanted to make sure he was in there as well. So that is the virtual walkthrough. I'm going to go ahead and bring up my presentation again, because I want to see if we can, without the video, if that's going to work. So hang on with me. We are going to go quickly through this because I don't want to. Hang on. Flowers and bloom, showstoppers, seeing flowers. We're going to do the virtual walkthrough. Okay. And I hope you do, go see the museum. There is a wonderful map that the museum created so that you can find each of the flowers and where they are in each room, and the names of the flowers and the names of the artists. So this is a handy little cheat sheet that you guys can get if you go visit the museum, and you can see where all of the flowers are located. So I hope you get to do that. But I also wanted to show a little bit about how these miniatures are made. This is an edit that came from Nybelwyck out of Russia, and this is how she makes her florals. I mean, everything is so super tiny, super tiny. She hand sculpts the clay. She uses a plastic bag to squirt out just the right amount. Her favorite tools are toothpick, because she's right. Obviously, this is sped up a little bit, a lot. This actually takes hours and hours and hours to do. But each leaf is individually sculpted and created to mimic the full-size counterpart. You just see the amount of work that goes into each and every flower. It's incredible. And the little dabs of glue that gets used. I just love the plastic bag that dispenses just the amount of clay that gets used to put these petals together. Just incredible. All right. So wait, is that, well, oh yeah, this is the final piece. Sorry. You can't miss that. Isn't that incredible? Just incredible. Yeah, so that's Nybelwyck out of Russia. So happy to have her work in this show. It's just amazing. Okay, so I'm gonna go on to the next one. I also wanted you hear in her own words how these are made.
It's like, yeah. It's because you have to make each petal on your finger, you have to make it so thin, and then you have to individually stick each petal in a pattern of whatever flower you're making. And then with the leaves is where you need to like sculpt the veins on it and then arrange it in a way that it looks natural, like how a natural cycle of a flower is. If you want to make it look a bit that's withering, and you need to put those dots and it's like tilting downwards and stuff. So it's like just a lot of research. I look at a lot of pictures and then I try to make it as real and natural to the real thing. I try to look at those pictures, and I like to make things look not so new. Like I could make flowers that are just standing up, like fresh flowers, but I wanted to, for that realism, I think if you're just making one or two flowers, like they're wilting, they're going down, and the leaves are getting a bit dry, I think it adds that touch of detail and more realism in it.
Yeah. So how do you achieve the different colors that each petal might be? I mean, are they hand painted afterwards or during?
Some are, yes.
Oh, okay.
So I add acrylic paint to my clay whilst I'm making the petals, but I add more shading. I think shading is something that gives you more of the detail. So after the flower is done, I add more. I use soft pastels. I use watercolors to basically then add more depth into each of the flowers. And like whatever I'm making. I use basic colors, but most of the details are achieved after the clay is dry, and after then I can use soft pastels or watercolors to then give it more shading and depth.
So this is her in progress when she was actually making the piece. This is Esha Bijutkar out of India. She made the little arrangement in the Zuber living room. Yeah, just lovely. Just lovely. So this is a listing of the participating artists. If you guys want to screenshot that, I'm also, if you reach out, I'm happy to share it on my website. There is a blog post. There's also a whole section on the show and all of the artists that are participating in it. But so that's a little bit about how they did it, and that was a preview of my Meet the Miniaturist. We filmed that last week, and that will be probably on my YouTube channel probably in another week, the full interview with Esha. So look for that. But this is a list of the participating artists, and I have to thank them, all of them, for being for doing such beautiful work, for gracing the Nybelwyck Hall mini mansion, and for showing us how beautiful miniatures can be. And so that is my spiel. Let's wrap this up with any questions, because we do have a little bit of time, don't we, Sarah Linda?
We certainly do. We have till 8 o'clock, so we have a full 6 minutes if anybody has any comments or questions. I want to thank, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. I just know your number, 371951731. It could be a song, but thank you so much for your lovely comment. And Robin, thank you too. I do want to, and I want to thank everybody for their interest, and we know that that there's a whole world of miniature enthusiasts out there, and we're going to take note of that. And I just want to remind everybody that this program has been recorded, so it will be posted to our YouTube channel, as soon as we can sort of download it, edit it, upload it, and do all that stuff. So that will be archived in perpetuity.
Oh, awesome.
Hi, Cindy. I see that's, I don't know why, but you know what? Thank you. Look, you're getting all these wonderful, well-deserved comments here.
Oh, awesome.
Inspiring.
So do we have any questions?
Thank you so much. It is a delight, right? It's always a delight being with Darren, working with Darren. But just a note that to be kept abreast of all of the museum's programs and events, make sure you sign up for our e-blasts. If you're not a member, if you're a member, you'll get all that information automatically. But if you go on our website, you can sign up in that way, and we send out e-blasts a lot.
We did have a question from Karen. She wanted to know, she hasn't been here, but she wanted to know if there's any special exhibits for the house. She wanted to make a special trip with her miniature club. I don't know if people know, but NAME, the National Association for Miniature Enthusiasts, is a very strong organization around the country, and she wants to know if she can plan to come and visit the house if there are other exhibitions.
If there are other exhibitions at the museum, you mean?
Around the house, specific exhibits for the house.
For the house.
So fall, Christmas, maybe?
Well, I think the house, well, and you're speaking to the expert. Darren comes in, let's see. Now we're doing it kind of on a cyclic, it's almost every season. It started out, Darren would decorate the house for the holidays.
Right.
Specifically for Christmas, because the Von Nibblewycks would have celebrated Christmas.
Right.
And complete with trees and wreaths and presents under the tree, little presents. So that's always such a joy. Preceded by Halloween, let's not forget, right? And that he makes it really scary and cute. And he installs many, many pumpkins. And we often, like, people come in, and especially when we have school groups in there, we like to see if they can find all the pumpkins.
Yeah.
And so we've got, fall, winter, and now spring, and summer with our, just bouquets from the simple to the elaborate. So, there's always a reason to visit. And I know you were asking about a trip. I mean, if you wanted to have a private tour for a group of Glenview, which would include a long look at Nybelwyck Hall, I put information in the chat as to how you can book a tour. So we would love to see name. We would love to see all.
Yeah.
Just get in touch with us, and our colleague Megan, who's
Is Esha on with us? I'm sorry. I think Esha say hi, Esha.
Is Esha there?
Esha from India has joined us.
Oh my God. And there's someone from France, 2:00 in the morning.
I love it.
Bonsoir et bienvenue.
Beautiful.
This is fantastic.
So someone had a question about my business. I sell only online exclusively, folks. I don't have a physical address, so you can only find me online.
And there's a lot to find here. There is a member. Let's see. Beth mentioned that you got distracted by the man under your stairs. I did not.
But I did. It was the Sandra Henry wall piece, the large piece. I did cover it.
Yeah.
Was that it? I mean, I didn't spend a lot of time on it, but.
That it, or was it Hope Elliott's?
No, we talked about Hope Elliott. I'm going to post this video tour on my website.
Yeah.
So you guys can go see it there as well.
I see. It's 5:30 in India. Good morning. Good
Yay.
morning. And New Zealand. This is amazing. It's just, I really just want to welcome everybody from all over the world. I wish you could all come in person.
Yeah.
To the Hudson River Museum. Christian, we could set up a really special program for you if you came from all over the world. Oh, thank you all so much.
Yeah. So this has been fantastic. Thank you again, Sarah Linda. Christian, thank you for all your help and support, and for just allowing us to come in and use Nyblewyck Hall as a backdrop for these beautiful works. And thank you guys all at home for following and joining, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, thank you again so much, and I hope you will come see us in person at the museum or tune into our virtual programs. Thanks again so much. Enjoy this beautiful evening. And we'll see you soon.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Take care and be well.
Bye.
An international guided tour. This is an international guided tour in a sense, right?